Stand by Studio 8. We go live in 8 seconds. John, don't forget the bad language warning. 4, 3, 2, go. And now on Rough Diamond Radio, we have the conclusion of the first series of The Thoughts of Chairman Greg. John, you forgot the fucking warning. Bollocks. It doesn't matter. Roll intro. Well, hello. Today's topic is religion. When I look around this wonderful planet on which we live, I sometimes feel there simply has to be a God. But the problem is, which one to support? There are so many out there to choose from. To say nothing of the relative religions, I quite like the sound of Bacchus, the Roman god of wine. Or maybe Bes, the Egyptian goddess of music, dance and sexual pleasure. I bet she's fun to be around. Mind you, I don't fancy the Hindu goddess Kali. She's the goddess of death and rebirth. I don't want to die, and my luck's so bad if there is such a thing as reincarnation, I'll come back as me. I have, however, given this dilemma a lot of thought, and on reflection, I'm with Mahatma Gandhi on this, when he said, God has no religion. Mind you, I can't see me and Gandhi going for a pint to discuss the matter anytime soon. I mean, that loincloth in my local? That said, when I become supreme ruler of the world, which is only a matter of time now, the one thing I'm going to ban is institutionalized religion. It simply causes too much trouble. Now please don't misunderstand me. I have nothing against a person having a faith, or an individual's belief in any god they choose. It's up to them. If Grandma Parry wants to get up early every Sunday morning, struggle 2 miles to church with her arthritic hip through the rain, to sing a few hymns, who am I to say she can't? And if Signor Lacamba feels better about himself after going to his church, sitting in the small box and spilling his guts to some faceless person on the other side of the grill, I'm pleased for him. Or if Mr. Massa Iqbal feels the need to carry with him a special mat, which he rolls out a couple of times a day in a certain direction, I'm happy for him too. Also, if I'm honest, I'm even slightly envious of such people. They're truly content in the total certainty of a better life to come after death, and I simply can't feel that, I'm afraid. The problem I feel is that such people who are truly deserving of such respect are thinner on the ground than you might think. It's the simple hypocrisy of some of these so-called religious people that pisses me off. Some of them seem to think that simply undertaking such acts as going to church, confession, or indulging in prayer somehow makes them a better person, regardless how they conduct themselves in the other spheres of their life. I mean, as Garson Keillor put it, just sitting in church makes you as much a Christian as sitting in the garage makes you a car. Take these examples. We all know the Grandma Parry type who sits piously through a sermon given in chapel, proclaiming the virtues of forgiveness and compassion for others. She'll be nodding her head and mumbling in agreement in all the right places, even giving a fervent amen at the end. The next day, however, she will gossip with her friends about the unmarried mother living next door, with such vitriol it would make Vlad the Impaler look like Dorothy out of the fucking Wizard of Oz. Also, I'm sure we've also heard of the Tony Lacamba type, who each week purges his soul for forgiveness, and burgeoning his conscience through the act of confession. He might even shed a tear or two while doing it. Then on the way out, he drops some money into a box, says a few Hail Marys, and promptly fucks off to see his mistress before going home to the wife and kids. Now, it's not that I mind such actions and attitudes per se. I've been responsible for a few vitriolic episodes in my life, to say nothing of a couple of mistresses. 2 facts I can't say I'm overly proud of, or thinking about it overly ashamed of. But I don't pretend to be a model of respectability. Quite the opposite. And at least I try and curb any traits that I consider a failing in myself. I fail miserably, but I do try. I'd like to take the time to point out that the important word in that last statement is I. This is due to the fact that I'd be buggered in a top hat if I let an unelected vicar, priest, imam or such telling me how I should live my life. If it's all the same to you, I live and act out my life the best as my flawed character will allow, within the limits of my own conscience and the laws put in place by the society in which I live. If you don't like that, you better get your own top hat and get greased up yourself. Even inasmuch as these repulsive character flaws I mentioned are hypocritical, bigoted and annoying, they are a small fry in the scheme of things, as these type of people mentioned can't, or more likely simply refuse to see their own faults. Thankfully, however, the problem these people pose should remain a small one, as it's mainly limited to self-deluded individuals. That said, there seems a lot of the sanctimonious bastards around to me. Much worse than the types mentioned so far are the people who twist and distort religious scriptures and beliefs to a level where they will kill and maim countless people with a bloody smile on their face because they think they're doing God's work. What's the saying? A religious zealot is someone who trebles the effort when they've forgotten the fucking point. And before you start to think I'm predominantly talking about people who warp and twist the Islamic faith, let me put you right, I'm not. All the major religions are either at it or have done it in the past. The Catholic faith had the Spanish Inquisition and the Crusades, hardly a high point in mankind's development, you'd agree. Hindus in the northern state of India have communal riots. It's like caring the community, Charles Manson style. Christians in the Central African Republic have been dishing out the good news in the form of beheading people for years, and that's just to name 3. So to whatever religious camp you belong, be very sure of yourself and any actions others perpetrate in the name of your God before you put the sanctimonious grin on your face and start pointing the finger at others. Let's take a side road for a moment. I so want to be there when these righteous bastards who commit these heinous atrocities against humanity are finally up in front of their God, and their God points his or her finger at them and says,
"And you retarded maggot, what the fuck did you think you were doing?"
Or even better, their God thrusts their holy scriptures into their hands, pokes them straight in the chest, then looking them straight in the eyes says,
"Okay, arsehole, show me where the fuck it said you can blow a bastard of people into thimble-sized lumps and put my name in it."
So in my opinion, whatever your race, colour, nationality or religious upbringing, undertaking such acts in the name of a God makes you a #1 arsehole in my book. There is, believe it or not, a subcategory of the above arseholes who are even more dangerous. These are the people, stroke leaders, who use religion and faith to incite violence for purely political and patriotic reasons. They work on the following premise. Convince a little man that he is serving some great cause, some grand scheme, and he will do practically anything for you. He'll burn witches for you, torture your enemies, and he'll do all this with a smile on his face if he thinks it's right. Or more specifically, or so it seems today, he's more likely to strap on a suicide vest full of explosives and blow himself and any poor bastard who's close by to bits. I can see it now. The old white-haired leader looks up at the young lad. "Oh, you look so smart in that martyr's vest. Black does suit you so well, and those blocks of C4 explosives are a lovely finishing touch. I know it'll make God so proud of you. He'll be sure to have all them 72 virgins waiting for you when you see him. Well, off you go then, young man. The military checkpoint is a mile down the road." The poor little sod 20 minutes later pulls a detonation cord and sends his bollocks and other pieces of himself into high orbit, while miles away the so-called leader sits having a coffee, smiles to himself on hearing the distant explosion, and starts thinking where he can get his next sucker from. I'm sure Western governments do things just as heinous, but they hide it better, and they do it under the guise of politics, not religion. That doesn't make it any better, but we talk about religion here, not politics. But the hypocrisy doesn't stop with the individuals within a religion. Oh no, as far as I'm concerned, it's the institutions of religions themselves are the worst. The next 2 points relate to the Catholic Church, but the other mainstream religions I'm sure are equally flawed. The incredibility of this next fact astounds me. Apparently the Catholic Church is a not-for-profit organisation, but the Vatican Bank was externally audited in 1994 and was found to have deposits of 40 billion and an annual profit of 4 million. And remember, that's deposits, money in the bank, not assets, art, buildings, land, antiques, etc. Those apparently are worth 60 billion worldwide, and that's a total worth of $100 billion. Now I'm sure the church, after paying for the upkeep of the churches and palaces, does a lot of good things that puts a lot of money out to needy causes. I also accept that all institutions require a financial reserve to ride out any storm the future may hold. But they must be expecting one bitch of a rainy day if they need to pack away 100 billion just in case. And they should know better than most. You can't take it with you. Saying that, given the diocese in California alone spent 54 million in the year 2013 on legal fees defending child abuse cases, maybe they're saving up for the worldwide payout. What do you think? Another religious observance that sums up for me the whole absurdity of these religious doctrines is within Catholicism the wearing of a gram or two of latex or your todger to stop a lady getting pregnant or to stop contracting or indeed passing on iffy diseases is contrary to the will of God. Really? What's that all about? The Vatican subjects countless people throughout the globe to making the choice of either running the risk of an unwanted pregnancy and or contracting AIDS and other sexually transmitted diseases, or commit a sin that within their belief structure would send them to the fires of hell. But why are you ask? I mean, a 2,000-year-old religion must have honed any response to such a question to a fine point by now. You would think so, yes? Well, to the best I can work out, their reasoning for this rule is the act of having sex must be open to God's will so he or she can decide if they're going to start a new life or not. It can't be your choice. And apparently, doing anything to impede God's will, like putting a condom on, is like sticking two fingers up to God and shouting, "Got you, big boy, you can't get me pregnant now, sucker." Not a good idea that, as God is, well, God, so he made it a sin. So what you're telling me is this omnipotent, all-seeing deity, a God who made the sun, the stars and all the glory of the world around us, can be outsmarted by a half-drunk 16-year-old with a small piece of latex. Really? The first time I tried to use a condom, I put it on inside out so the damn thing wouldn't roll down. And I remember thinking at the time as I struggled with the damn thing, as my beautiful girlfriend waited patiently alongside me, some bastard up there hates me. So apparently God can make such wonders as the 7 seas and all that swims in them, but can't arrange for a condom to split at the right or wrong time, depending on your viewpoint. Go figure. However, having sex and withdrawn at the point of ejaculation is allowed, as is the making of a menstrual chart so a lady can work out when she can have sex and is least likely to fall pregnant. But surely you're still undertaking a course of action to actively prevent the conception of a child, aren't you? But apparently this is acceptable, as if God should decide differently, you could still conceive a child. Well, I'm here to tell you, if that's the criteria, the use of a condom should be allowed within the Catholic faith, as I'm sure numerous people around the world would testify. Using a condom is not a 100% surefire way of avoiding a pregnancy. I'm one and I've got a daughter to prove it. Also, it might not have crossed your mind, but we're not just talking about sexual intercourse here. We're talking about all sexual acts must have the opportunity for God to exercise his will to put people up to death. So the basic rule of thumb is, if you can't get pregnant doing it, then it's a sin. Simple as that. So that's no blowjobs, no hand jobs, no boob jobs, no same-sex relationships, and even no masturbation. Considering all that, all I can say is there must be lots of sinners out there. And given masturbation is a sin that puts you in hell, I bet there's no teenage boys in heaven. So in a nutshell, in my opinion, the answer to all this religious stuff is best summed up by my updated quote, originally by Marcus Aurelius. It's simply, live a good life, because if there is a God, and they are fair and just, then she will not care how devoted you've been, but welcome you based on the virtues you've lived by. If there is a God, but unfair and unjust, he or she doesn't deserve to be worshipped. And if there is no God, then you will be gone, but will have lived a noble life that will live on in the memories of your loved ones. Sounds like a plan to me. For you atheists out there, the doctrine I try and live by, that might suit your needs better, is live your life so your family love you, your friends respect you, and everybody else could kiss your ass. To conclude this topic, I'll leave you on a parable. I was driving home one night and my car broke down. As I tried to fix it, it started to pour down with rain. After getting soaked through, I admitted defeat and called the RAC. While I waited, I had 2 phone calls. One from work saying I'd been sacked. The second phone call was from my girlfriend, telling me she didn't want to see me anymore. Just as I was trying to come to terms with that, I had a third phone call from my neighbour to tell me my house is on fire. After hanging up, I cried a lot, looked up to the heavens and pleaded, "Why, God? Why me?" And a big booming voice came out from the clouds.
There's just something about you, Greg, that pisses me off.
Thank you.